This video is for business leaders who want themselves and their team to become productivity ninjas. Have you ever felt overwhelmed the moment you arrived at work? How about after lunch? If you're ever overwhelmed by everything you have to do in any one day, today, or any day, the razor-sharp strategies, weapons, and skills, 𝗬𝗂𝘂𝘀𝗵's book, How to Be a Productivity Ninja, Worry Less, Achieve More, and Love What You Do, has you covered. Watch to the end of this video for my recommended video on crushing your productivity and a bonus, some bonus material on minimizing cognitive load. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose one highlight from every chapter except the first, which basically frames what a productivity ninja is and frames the rest of the book. It is a cool chapter, but it doesn't have any specific points to make in the same way the rest do. So starting on chapter 2 and going through chapter 10 of 12, because I'm not quite finished the book, so we'll still give you a very good idea of what this book's about, and I recommend it. So that's the short part about that. That is chapter 2, Why We Get Stressed. And he talks about sources of stress and their solutions. I'm only going to talk about the sources of stress because many of the solutions are the same. Many of them are sort of obvious, at least after the fact, but he gives good solutions, and I want to keep this fairly short, sharp, and tight. So his sources of stress are control, change, overload panic, looking foolish, fear of being found out, conflict, and vagueness and ambiguity. And I think the most significant one here is actually the last, vagueness and ambiguity. I'll come back to why that is later down this video. So essentially the main central premise of this book, in a sense, would be attention management. That is, he acknowledges rightly and wisely how our brains or cognition actually works. It goes in waves of alertness and tiredness, times when we are best able to deal with mental tasks and make decisions, and times where we are least able to make mental tasks and decisions, and how to manage our attention in a way to take advantage of that and do the right tasks at the right time, and plan to do that on an ongoing and organized basis. So chapter 4 is about Ninja email, and this is about getting your inbox to 0 and keeping it there or maintaining it at a very low level at the very least by organizing stuff into different folders. And he has some really great and unique strategies as to how to do that and how to make the categories, including using characters. I do that sometimes too, like ... or @ so that the program automatically organizes things by the character you use. You can use that alphabetization to make specific categories. So the next one is chapter 5. Actually, this is chapter 5 to introduce the concept, and then 4 more chapters to cover it as well. And that is Ninja Productivity, the 𝗬𝗂𝘂𝘀 productivity model. Now, 𝗬𝗂𝘂𝘀 stands for capture and collect, organize, review, and do. So then he goes into each chapter. So the next chapter, chapter 6, is the capture and collect habit. This is about capturing information and putting it down so it's no longer distracting you. And that is a significant drain on your ability to stay focused at your work. The next one is the organize habit. That is what I like here is he says something significant that I love the quote of, pulled right out of the book, and that is keep future actions that you can't do immediately away from your master actions list. The master actions list is just what you think it is. It's simply sort of your core list of stuff to do, which you can just look over, know what you need to do next, and just do it. But any activity that's in the future and unactionable should not be going on that list. That will be distracting and in some sense demoralizing. The next one is chapter 8, and that is the review habit. This is to go over your different lists that he talks about, checklists and other things, in such a way as to keep them current, update them, keep them basically dynamically up to date, and you adaptive. Sometimes things change, And he talks about that a lot. And his system builds flexibility or maximizes productivity, but also builds flexibility into it. And part of the review is knowing when you have to revise these different lists and stuff. So I like what he said here, or not him, but actually one of his quotes, which was, "Thinking for yourself is still a radical act." 𝗬𝗂𝘂𝗵. So that's the gem out of chapter 8. Chapter 9 is the do habit. And this is the last one I will do because this is as far as I've listened so far, but it will give you a very good idea of the overall book and definitely recommend it. So chapter 9 is the do habit, and he particularly focuses on monotasking. That is, focusing on a single task and not to make any decisions unless absolutely necessary. That is, he makes an analogy of an assembly line worker whose job is to put cherries on the top of a cake. Just one cherry on the top of the cake. It's their only job. The cake comes along, you put the cherry on. You pick up the next cherry, the next cake comes, you put it on. This is the doing part of it. This isn't about thinking and making a lot of decisions. You've already done that in advance. So there's a lot of proactive management in this system, but done in a very good way, better than anything I've seen. He draws a lot of inspiration from Getting Things Done, but it's not quite as rigid, and it has a lot more insight into how cognition actually works, with none of the geeky language or stuff that I would be likely to use with it. But he knows his stuff. It's really good. I'm going to mention one exception to this is Pomodoro. While the idea of Pomodoro is great, everybody who seems to use it uses the arbitrary, unscientific, and I don't know why they've done it this way, a very arbitrary time factor of 5 minutes of a break and 25 minutes of productivity. I looked online, I tried to find stuff, and the best I can tell you is Pomodoro, ideally, if you're going to use it at all, should be 20 minutes of downtime, 20 minutes of relaxation, don't do anything really productive time, followed by 90 minutes of productive time. It's not clear that you can actually train yourself to do that on your schedule. It's called an ultradian rhythm. It's part of your metabolism that affects everything about your body, including your alertness in your brain. And it's the same thing that causes you do the same thing, right? You're dreaming and then you go back down into sleep, dreaming, waking up. And this goes on all day long. It's a metabolic cycle. So the moment you woke up, technically, is probably the start of your 90-minute productive period. As to whether you can tweak those, I doubt it, but I'm not really sure. But if you're going to use that Pomodoro style thing, valid idea, invalid time frames as it's used by everybody I've seen using it. 20 minutes of downtime followed by 90 minutes of productive work is how our body actually works. If you guys see some exception to that, let me know. I would love to hear from you. So the last two chapters I have not yet listened to is Ninja, Project, and Meeting Management. Kind of implies what it's about. Obviously, I'll let you know if there's anything in a future video. And Momentum, which is exactly what it sounds like. So thank you for watching this far. This is the bonus content, and that is minimizing cognitive load. Now, this is about doing a lot of the stuff he talks about. I've talked about it before in terms of definitely focusing in particular on one task for a period of time, the monotasking idea. But in particular, I talk about it in terms of Delegate as being your top choice. If you have the resources to do it, don't do anything that would actually be more profitable for you to hire somebody else to do it or to outsource that task. So delegate first if you can. Do second if that's the only option, or the next best option. Delegate it, have somebody else do it. That takes none of your time, and he talks about that too. You do, and that is super productive. You're doing, you're not planning, you're doing, like he talks about. Those are typically two separate activities. Once you know what to do, I talk about not the one thing, I talk about the next thing. I know what I'm doing most of the time every day with minimal planning. I know I have a video to do. I know I have certain work commitments, certain meetings. It's all on my schedule. I don't do any more, nowhere near as much productivity or time or organizational management as this guy does, but it works for me, and I do very, very little of it because it's super effective and pragmatic. He talks about the same thing. And lastly, if you can't do those or an idea pops into your head, now this is the same as his capture. I stop my task. While it's in my head, I immediately go, I document it. So for me, it is do, delegate, do, or document. And by doing this, it helps you minimize cognitive load. You're only doing one thing at a time. You can pause on a task. Now, this depends on who you are, but the way my brain works, I'm better to get that out of my head. There's something I think is called the 𝗬𝗂𝘂𝗃 effect, that having something incomplete sort of drains your attention or keeps it in your mind. So you're using cognitive load doing that. So if you can go, okay, I have an idea, get the idea, write it down on what he would call your second brain. I used to call it my brain too when I had a book. Then get back to your task immediately. So you delegate if you can, you do next, just get it done uninterrupted. And if you have interruptions or you need to capture something or something comes up, you document that so that you can get back to it later. It's not getting lost. And the recommended video for today is crush your productivity. I'll put a link there and I'll put it in the description as well. And that pretty much covers it. So please share this video with anyone you know who is struggling with productivity. This is the best book I've read to date on this subject or listened to date on this subject. It may be more detailed than you need, but it's brilliant because it actually, without getting sciencey at all, talks about the need to manage your attention and a bunch of things, and non-sciencey about the best way to use your brain. Attention management as a concept is absolutely brilliant. It's far better than the idea of time management. So please share this with anyone you know who needs or wants to manage and organize their time and their productivity and their attention better. That's it for 𝗬𝗂𝘂𝗵 Club audiobook productivity ninja book review. My name is Tim B. Green. Bye for now.